All right, what is up, lefties? It is your boy Michael Harris, joined as always with Lincoln Cook, and we have a very special guest from Colorado, Micah Callies. How is it going, buddy?
Good, good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing dandy. We're less than 1 month to USAMs, which has been a big countdown for us here. But this is a fun distraction for us. I'll give a quick bio. Actually, Mike could correct me for whatever I'm gonna say wrong.
Go for it, Lincoln.
Micah is 990 plus rated. I don't know where you're at right now, but 990 plus.
995 as of today, 995.
Ooh, okay,
Nice.
okay.
I dropped 1 point, but probably deserved to drop more, but still hanging on.
There you go. So
rounds up to
995.
1,000. Rounds up to 1,000.
Originally from Minnesota.
Wisconsin.
Dadgummit.
Yes.
Living in Colorado, like
Mhm.
7 minutes down the road from me, which is kind of fun. You and I met at a weekly tag event,
Mhm.
and you were left-handed, or are left-handed. And so we got talking a little bit, just lefty disc golf. And now you are on the left-hand backhand disc golf podcast.
It's a pleasure to be on.
So I'm pumped.
Yeah. No, when I guess I don't go to that tags match very often, so it was pretty fortunate to meet you there. So
It's the only time I've been.
yeah.
It's pretty sick. You were just recently in a bigger A tier in Colorado at the 303 Open up at Badlands.
Yeah, it was kind of a combination course up at Badlands. Arguably one of the bigger tournaments, I would say, probably the biggest, because you have some touring pros kind of stopping by. There's a couple of USDGC spots available, so
wow.
you got some of the guys trying to come and grab that with an A tier field here. The course was a combination between upper and lower Badlands at Kamenesh Park in Thornton. So
Nice.
Yeah, we didn't have a DGPT stop or even a Silver Series this week, so kind of a decent week for a couple pros to come. And we had Aaron Goose Gossage come and take it down. Joel Freeman. Any other touring pros?
There was a few others that traveled out here. One of my buddies that I played with last year, Jake Brown, he's doing all the tour stops, I believe. I actually got to play with him a few times this last weekend. He's based out of, I think, San Diego. And then there was a couple other kind of quasi like celebrities, like you had
Colorado
Paul Kranz. Well, you had Paul Kranz.
Really?
And world champion last year. Harry, his buddy. Some guys that are kind of featured on Simon's YouTube. Got to hang out with them a bit, and I think there was a few more maybe. You had AJ Carey was here too.
Yeah.
Joe Revere.
Joe, yep.
And who's the other one? Finished like top 5 or top 7 or something like that.
Oh boy, I feel bad that I don't remember. But I was watching the top few cards, but I do not remember. Well, Nick Hansen was here too. Yeah.
Nick Hansen, that's what I'm thinking of. Yep.
Yeah.
Sick. Well, after the first 2 rounds, you were looking pretty solid. Talk to us about the first 2 rounds. We'll just focus on those 2.
Yeah. So, first of all, just a little background. I had my first tournament of the year last or I guess 2 weekends ago now. It was a smaller B tier down in Colorado Springs, kind of a warm up tournament. I tried to get one in before 303.
And I probably should have started with this. You're recovering from shoulder surgery.
It wasn't surgery. So I had
shoulder injury.
Yes. So at the end of the year last year, I was battling some pretty severe kind of shoulder pain. there was a few days that I woke up and I couldn't even move my arm or lift my arm. It kind of came after one of my later season B tiers. Before Worlds, I was signed up for Worlds out in Emporia, and kind of played like a warm up B tier. Unfortunately, after that tournament, I had some shoulder pain, kind of some numbness in my shoulder when I was throwing. And then I woke up the next day and I couldn't really lift my arm. And it was the week before driving out to Worlds. So I decided on, unfortunately, dropping out my first Worlds that I qualified for.
But that killed a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But honestly, I don't know what I was really trying to do going out to Worlds. But
Just
other
the
than
experience.
just experiencing it,
Yeah.
and seeing a bunch of friends and hanging out with all the guys. But kind of finished out the season a little weak because of that. So I took about 5 or 6 weeks of PT. Came back for states and one other tournament, and then ended up re-injuring my shoulder and then taking a few months off. So I'm kind of coming off of a shortened off season / like still battling some shoulder issues. Still doing PT just about every day. And then I had a warm-up tournament last weekend, kind of just feel out the shoulder, see how it's going to work in tournaments, as well as through all my PT and shoulder work last year, my putting motion has changed the most because my past wasn't really full of weightlifting and kind of bulking, so my shoulders are really weak as is. And then over this last off season, my shoulder strength has increased dramatically, so my putt is probably the most affected. So
yeah,
I took a little bit of getting used to last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago now, at the Wide Field Open. Came out really weak. Pretty much found myself on second to last card on a B tier, which for me, I mean, I shot like a 930 rated round, something like that. It was really poor start to the season. But then the second round, I came out and shot like 10-18, jumped into last cash, kind of night and day kind of tournament. But jumped into last cash. It felt a little better second round. I think I put like 90% from C1. And then kind of felt pretty good going into 303. Kind of built on that final round. My first round of 303, I played with. It was a pretty good card. Jake Brown was on the card, one of my good buddies from last year, and
we'll have to note him in our wild card picks, Mike.
Yeah,
yeah.
Sure.
Well, he's I actually ran into him. I think I played with him at States last year, Colorado States in Pueblo. That's where I ended up, I think, meeting him, and then I don't think I've played with him any other place, but we get along pretty well, and kind of he's got a good forehand backhand, and I like to think that I do too. So we kind of feed off of each other's game. Unfortunately, he didn't have the greatest of. Well, he had a decent first round at 303. He probably wouldn't say so, but it was really windy, gusty.
Yeah, conditions Friday weren't the best.
It was a little all over the place. So we started and it wasn't really that windy. And I just started really slow and sluggish. And I think so out at that safari / like championship layout out there, it's a really long course. So it's like 9,600 feet, pretty much.
And landing zones, OB, water.
Yeah. And
from what I saw on your first 2 days, there was a lot of blue on that card.
Yeah, I had a lot of blue, and then
there were a couple grays I saw on there too, but a lot of blue, which is good.
Yeah, and
scoring.
I was scoring, and it was pretty much just the missed opportunities that held me back. I started out the first 9 +2, unfortunately. After
Was that the
picking up a
double?
couple birdies. What's that?
Was that the double on like 7 or 8 or something?
Yeah, I took actually the first round I didn't have any doubles or triples or anything. Weird to say that because I did have some later in the tournament, but it was just like a couple just regular bogeys that I three putt a hole, which is not normally like me. I like to just one putt holes. And there was
That's fair.
way too many holes this weekend that I two putt, if not three putt. So there was a lot of missed opportunities, but after round one, I finished the back nine strong, probably one of the strongest of the day.
Yeah.
Neg 5 on the back, and then I finished, neg 3 on the day. Left me in 10th place. So
Nice.
And then after round 2, you were 7th place. Is that right?
After round 2, I think I shot. It was just over 1,000 again. So
I think it was -4. Is that right?
Yeah, I shot -4. Day
Yeah,
2
actually-
was playing a little easier.
Yeah,
So,
your first round was higher rated than your second round.
yeah. So second round,
Kinda
people
crazy.
kind of figured out the course. Aaron shredded.
Shot like -11 or something.
Yeah.
Him and
So
Joel.
him and
That's
yeah, I
right.
think Joel too. So
Crazy Pants Freeman.
yeah. So I found myself tied for 11th after round 2. So
Nice.
still on the third card, which felt pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, for that being first bigger tournament since PT shoulder recovery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's a solid way to
felt-
battle back through.
Yeah, it felt good.
everything.
I mean, my game, my throws felt great. It's just I'm battling on the green right now, trying to figure out the routine, figure out the mental focus inside the circle again. So kind of a funny little story. My first round back, so at that B tier down at Widefield, I opened up the round and my card was kind of laughing because I think I had 10 or 11 circle 2 putts out of 18, which is the most I've ever had. Like I just could not get in circle 1.
Yeah.
So fortunately I was 40% from circle 2 my first round. So
I was gonna say,
4 for 10.
That's stat
killed
boosting
me.
right there.
But like having 10 circle 2 looks and not having a circle 1 look until the 14th hole of the tournament didn't feel good. And that's kind of how my game has felt. Just not 100% dialed. Sometimes it shows up and you park holes that you've never even had birdie looks in like practice
Mhm.
rounds and stuff, but I really haven't hit any stride on the putting green. Just feel a little uncomfortable still. So, but
Well, thankfully you're not alone.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I actually am right there with you as well. Whereas putting is normally a strong suit for me, but I'm.
Sure.
There's a good book by Dr. Bob Rotella. It's called "Putting Out of Your Mind," and it's a golf book, but
Sure.
it still applies. And it's
Yeah.
like one of the few books that I've read more than once in my life
Mhm.
because I hate reading. But that's a great book.
Maybe I should read that. I don't read often, but maybe I should read that book.
Yeah, maybe I'll just find an audiobook and I'll share it with you or something.
Yeah. Well, at the end of last year, I kind of was putting out of my mind. I think I went like there was at one point in time 4 out of 5 tournament rounds I was 100% from C1.
Yeah.
And like 50% from C2. It was pretty crazy for a while, but unfortunately, I haven't gotten back to that kind of feel on the putting green. So we'll get there soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we actually had a few questions about just like your game in general. Since we're talking about putting,
Mhm.
what would you say is your putting style?
I think traditionally, so when I first started disc golfing, I did more of a push putt, everything linear, basket arm, very up and down motion. It's
Oh,
kind of
and
I learned a lot from my older brother, and it was a very like up and down kind of motion. Had a little
and
more lob on the putt. So
mind you, Mike, he's not short like us. He's 6'6", 6'5".
yeah, 6'5". Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
Micah kind of towers over us a little bit. So he has to look down at the basket, whereas
Even when it's
us average folk, we're, you know,
I,
that's not as much of an issue for us.
I,
So
I like to
putting
say
up and down kind of makes a little more sense for you.
Yeah, I like to say sometimes on the putting greens I have a disadvantage because I feel like I'm looking down at the basket
Yeah.
and headwinds and tailwinds always get me
I can see
because the
that.
nose of my disc is naturally either down or I kind of compensate and put the nose up a little bit. So um
It's kind
it's
of
always a
like
battle.
Ricky. He's like about probably what your height too,
Yeah, I think Ricky's probably my height. Yeah,
like 6'4",
6'4", 6'5".
6'5", and his putt is just it goes to the basket like this. It's just super
Zero.
nose down the whole way.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
understand it.
Yeah, I think I generally have a pretty flat putt or try to at least have a flat putt because I think it kind of battles the wind better,
Mhm.
left to right. I like to like nose angle flat, but I like to putt on a little bit of hyzer. And over time, my putt has turned more and more into more of a spush or more like a spin putt. And that's just because I noticed that you got to be able to fight the wind. You got to be able to putt in the wind. And the
Especially in
best way to do
Colorado.
that is, spin the disc and putt a little harder. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I've kind of moved more and more towards more of a spin putt, I would say. So,
What is your putter like? What do you use to putt?
so I use the Exo Hard Logic. Um, I it's not a putter that you see a lot of people putting with.
No.
And I used to putt P2s forever since I started pretty much. Way back in the day, I saw Simon putting with P2s, and I'm like, well,
That's
P2's
what I want
got
to
to be
use.
the best
I need to be
putter.
Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think we all have gone through that phase as well.
yeah, like I can putt like Simon, or I can putt like Paul, right? So, um, but then I didn't like the lack of glide that some of the P2s had, and you'd have to really beat in a P2 in order to get some glide. Um, and then Discmania came out with, so I put with the P2 for a really long time. And then the Discmania came out with the Link. And I'm like, the Link's a pretty good putter. It's lower profile.
Dude, that's
Has a
really
little
nice of you to
bit
say
quicker
about me. I
glide, and
appreciate that.
yeah, you putt with the Link, and you're a pretty good putter with the Link, that's for sure. So your purple Links are pretty sweet, I'll tell you.
Those things are
So,
pretty gnarly. I like them a
yeah.
lot.
So, and then they came out the Logic, which is to me, it's like a Link without a bead.
A little more shallow than a
Um,
P2.
Yep, yep, a little more shallow. It's got
Lot
that
more
rounded
glide.
lip because I believe it's like a Pure and a Warden combination. So it's very low profile, but it also is more of a rounded rim. Fits my hand really well. And ever since they came out the Logic, I've switched to them.
And that's been how long now?
I think I've been putting with them for almost a full 2 years now.
Nice.
Maybe a good year and a half I've been putting with them. So I like to say I started playing 1,000 rated golf when I started putting with the Logic, but unfortunately I can still shoot some low 900s with the Logic.
That's all right. That's where we live, so we know about all that range.
Couple quick questions for you.
Mhm.
How far from the basket would you say you're like 90% confident? Like, what's the furthest away that you would say like 90%? And we can maybe tailor this back to like middle of last season, we'll say.
Yeah, I would say, when I was at, my putting stride last year, when I practice putt and I practice putt quite a bit, I've rarely moved further back than 20 feet. And it kind of goes back to when I was first getting into disc golf. Eagle started blogging, and he's like, if you make every single 20 footer, build that confidence, see the putt go in. you'll build the confidence to be able to make 30 footers, whatever. So I like to say, when I'm practicing 20 footers, I try to make as many as I possibly can in a row. And at the end of the year last year, it was pretty much you put me 30 feet in, and I could have counted it in the basket already. So when I step up to a tee pad, I'm like, okay, all I have to do is get it 30 feet from the basket.
Your circle's a little bigger.
So
Nice.
But right now it's about 10 or 15.
Then moving back, how far is it till you're like 50% confident?
And
then 10%. Like where's your
I think
your limit?
Probably like 40 feet. If I'm just outside the circle, I feel like I'm probably gonna make at least every other one. Maybe a little more than that when I'm feeling confident in my putt. And then once you get, there are certain points in time I can back up to 60, and I feel like I can hit, every other putt. But then I would say anywhere lengthier putt within like circle 2, I would say I'm probably making one out of every handful or two. So that like 10%, maybe 15, 10%.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
There's times where like that 60 footer feels more like a 40 footer. The Logic is a very straight putter. I can put it on a very similar line to a 20-foot putt, and it can go 60 feet. So,
also you putt a million miles an hour, so that helps.
I have been putting a lot stronger than I used to, so I can putt a lot further. So
when you get to those farther putts, even 40 feet, are you stepping? Are you keeping your same motion, or are you jumping?
Yeah, I think so. Like from 40 in, I don't step or fall forward or anything. Anything past 40, or if I have like an uphill lie or an awkward lie, I like to take like a little jump step through, kind of like a Paul Macbeth type of like jump on
like
the same
hop
foot, kind of hop forward.
Yeah.
I've tried step putts. I've tried the like opposite foot step putts, kind of like a fall through putt, like Robinson does. Brody kind of does like that, like step through putt.
Ezra.
Yeah. Conrad kind of does that now too.
Well, he just leaps as far as he can.
Yeah, his is a little more of a leap.
His isn't a step; it's a gallop. Like
yeah,
exactly.
And I've tried all those, and I just kind of lose the like consistency of the release. So I kind of like to stick with that like athletic little hop step. I try not to hop too far, but it's just to give myself a little more momentum.
Yeah, for sure.
So
nice.
How far do you, and again, we're going to generalize this between like last season to now. What's your golf distance backhand and golf distance forehand?
Sure.
Because you're a bomber. We understand that you throw much further than us. Just where would you say, like, how far is the hole that you're like, yep, I can reach that confidently, and I'm not going to be concerned about spraying?
Yeah, it really has changed since I moved to Colorado about 2 years ago. I really forced myself to add distance because out here you have a lot of open holes and 450 plus par threes. That in the Midwest, you don't normally have that type of kind of open space to really launch a disc. So I pushed myself to learn how to throw harder. I watch videos of myself throwing from years past, and it just looks like I'm just throwing way too soft. And I was probably throwing a little over 400 feet before moving out here. Within a year or two, I think I could easily say that 450 was pretty easy to get to. Now I like to say that, if it's a 500-foot hole, I want to try to at least get a look at it, unless there's, something in the way or a 2-shot hole, something like that. But I would say you give me a wide open 500-foot hole. I'm probably going to be targeting circle 2 at least, trying to get it within, putting range.
And that's backhand, correct?
Yeah, backhand.
What's that forehand distance for you?
Forehand distance, I would say I could probably push something 400 feet right now. Last year it might have been 450. I can 400 feet is kind of pushing it, and I'm really giving myself kind of like a pitch count of forehands right now.
That's fair.
Unfortunately, I've lost a lot of my forehand favorite discs. They were like flippy or nukes, kind of really glidey, domey nukes. I've lost them, almost all of them.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Yep.
So
Good.
really trying to limit myself on distance forehands no matter what. Right now.
But if you needed to push a shot forehand, you could say 400.
Yeah, I think I could probably get in within the circle 400 foot shot. So, but distance line, if I'm really, really trying to launch an Emperor or a nuke, I think 2 weeks ago I put a Emperor like 580 feet, kind of on a distance line.
Forehand?
Backhand.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, dude.
I don't really throw distance lines very often. I like to throw like flat shots that are turning or just hyzer flips. And I can say that I can probably get like a flat shot that like turns left, comes back, like just an S line. Probably push it close to 500 feet. Maybe like 470, 480, and not like spraying a field.
Sure.
But if I'm looking to like spray a field and all I have is distance in like 1,000-foot hole, that distance line, I feel like I'm throwing further this year than I was last year for whatever reason. So
that's legit.
Nice.
Biggest strength of your game and biggest weakness?
Currently, what I would say, I'll start with weakness, is putting. Putting consistency, just finding that routine. The putting routine has always been a weakness of mine, and I worked probably the hardest last year on building a routine, kind of doing the same exact thing every single time you step up to a putt, whether it's a 10-foot putt or a 70-foot putt. That's one thing that I'm going to be spending pretty much every single day on. The next couple weeks here as I kind of plug through some tournaments. Instead of focusing on, pinpointing my drive, I've noticed that it's a lot easier to shoot better tournament rounds when your putt's feeling confident. You'll step up to a hole and be like, I don't have to park that hole in order to birdie it. Strength of my game, probably my fairway drivers. And newly found favorite distance driver in my bag. So those longer range shots, I seem to be hitting, a lot cleaner. I never really liked throwing distance drivers too much last year. I had one nuke that I really liked to throw. Unfortunately, lost that at Maple Hill. But I like throwing fairway drivers a lot, and recently started throwing the Emperor and found some really nice Emperors. And
some pretty ones too.
What's that?
Some pretty ones too.
Yeah, they're definitely pretty, and pretty unique, with cool stamps. And the Halo Emperor is really, really fun to throw. I would say kind of my driving accuracy right now, when it came to landing zones and everything throughout all of last weekend, at 303, there wasn't many drives that I felt like I was out of control. So
how was the course set up? I mean, I watched some videos on it.
Bonanza.
And then just being a lefty, how did it suit your game? Do you think it was fair? Do you think it was biased towards righties? Like, what's your thought on that?
I was a little concerned when I heard Joe kind of helped design the course. I was a little concerned because Joe throws a lot of power righty backhands, and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna have to have a power lefty forehand, which I do not have right now.
Yep.
Um, but he was really fair to the lefties, I think. I found myself throwing more forehands than I wanted to, but really not out of reach. So it was really fair, I would say. There wasn't. I have a harder time noticing whether a course is very righty friendly or lefty friendly. I mean, there isn't really a lefty friendly course, but
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let me know when you find one of those.
yeah, I don't know of one, but some might say USDGC. I've never been out there, but it always happens to be those righty forehand players, or like, Nathan Queen and James Conrad play really well out there, and they're only righty backhand. So
I feel like I've heard that lefties enjoy that course.
yeah.
Which, I mean, there's only a few of us, so we got to stick together,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, take advantage when we got them. So
Yeah.
and
Lefty
it's
love,
always
baby.
it always puts so much pressure on that one lefty hole.
There's
You step
always
up to that
one.
one lefty hole, and it puts so much pressure on that one shot. It's like I get to throw hyzer now.
Yeah.
I've been throwing Anheisers and straight shots all day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Well, we've talked a lot about your bag already. Do we want to do a quick run through the bag?
yeah.
We can kind of guide you through it, ask you questions about different sections, and
Mhm.
you can just tell us what you're using. And
Yeah. So I mean, I can work my way up since I already talked about the putter.
yeah, you got the Logic. You're
Yeah,
putting with.
I putt with the Logic. I also throw the Logic.
Actually, I should interject real quick.
Mhm.
Ladies and gentlemen, Micah is sponsored by Infinite Discs out of Logan, Utah, which
Yes.
been to the factory a couple times. It's actually really cool to go to. And you've been sponsored by them. This is year 2 now.
Yeah, this is the second year. Feeling
So your
a
bag's
lot
going to
more
be a
comfortable.
little different in that you're trying to force as many infinite molds, or I guess kind of.
Well,
Can you talk us through that process of like when you're building your bag? Are you going infinite first and then finding something else, or what's that process look like for you?
yeah, I mean, what I would say is a lot of the infinite molds kind of felt like they just fit my game really well. And I'm not just biased because of that. I used to throw all Discmania. Everything was Discmania.
And you're not getting paid more for saying that on this podcast?
Yeah. No, I'm not getting paid anymore. No, I threw a lot of Discmania, and I never really went out of my shell to throw different brands. Actually, the first brand that I threw outside of like a Discmania disc, as I kind of progressed, into my professional status, I would say, was the Buzz. And I started throwing the Buzz, and I'm like, why have I not thrown the Buzz? Like, it's a fantastic disc. I've never thrown this before. I'm like, it just does exactly what I want to. And I'm like, kind of thinking to myself, hey, there's other discs out there that could probably take my game to the new level. So, I started throwing the Zone, and I'm like, well, I feel like the Buzz added 10 points to my rating, and then I started throwing the Zone, and that added another 10 points to my rating because it just opened up parts of my game. Then I started, kind of venturing into other molds, and last year got sponsored by Infinite. I'm like, well, let me kind of do the same thing. I'll try out some Infinite molds. Really, really love their fairway lineup. Mid ranges and slower. I haven't really found a connection with any of the Infinite molds yet.
Except for
Play
the
around
Kontiki.
Kontiki's really fun. That is a really fun disc. It's kind of one of my. I don't even claim that it's in my bag. It's in my bag for practice rounds and.
Is it hole 6
shots
at Prickly Pines?
Yeah. I could just throw it flat, and all it does is just turn over. So, there are definitely discs like that Infinite has that are just incredibly fun to throw. I don't find them in my bag when it comes to tournament day, but
Sure.
Practice rounds, rec rounds, they're a lot of fun discs that I currently don't bag, but I have a handful of them that I like to take and either have people try them out, stuff like that. So
you're
but
kind of seeing as, if the infinite mold will work for you, and if
yeah.
not, you're kind of going back to what you've found to
Yeah,
be
I'm
successful.
not forcing infinite molds into my bag, but what I've noticed is a lot of them they kind of fit my throwing style, and I'll use those. Infinite has a ton of molds, so if it happens to fit my style, or I'm looking for a certain type of throw that I'm trying to incorporate in my game, I'll go reach out to the guys at Infinite and be like, hey, like, what do you think about the new Roman or the Rays?
What's the
And they'll get me
Roman?
a nice one. The Roman, I believe, is like a Thunderbird or a PD.
Oh,
So they'll be coming out with that pretty soon. And
The Rays is like a AVR3 X3
yeah, I
type
think
of thing.
it's like an AVR3, I would say.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a little domey, or the ones that I got were a little domey.
yeah,
But it's
didn't
definitely fun.
feel amazing in my hand.
Yeah,
But you like the Czar, right?
I do like the Czar. Unfortunately, it has a little overlap. I used to bag a handful of Czars, and I'm like, well, now I have these Emperors that are awesome, and the Czar's 11 speed. It's like a kind of like a Wraith, I would say. Um, there was a little too much overlap. I like it. I like keeping one of the Halo Czars in my bag yet, just as a little less left to right movement. It's a little more neutral, I would say. But once I get my hands on a few more Romans, then I'll be probably throwing them a little bit more as a control driver. But yeah, no, Infinite's been really good to me. I like a lot of the molds, and I've only been filling more and more of them in. So
yeah, well, we've kind of been bouncing around. We
Mhm.
want to go fairways while we're there, while we're
Yeah,
talking infinite.
well, I think we're probably closer to the higher speeds, lower. So I'll kind of just go with like the distance drivers right now. So I've alluded to the Emperor. It's more of the newest of additions to my bag.
Kind of taking that nuke spot.
Kind of, sorta.
Nuke's still in the bag.
Nukes are still in the bag. I still bag 3 nukes for 4 hands, really only.
Oh, okay.
Something about, for a while, I wasn't sure if 12 speeds were really my favorite or if 13s were. I threw the nuke for the last 2 years and I really, really liked it. And just in the process of losing a few nukes that I really liked, and kind of not feeling necessarily comfortable with the stability of some of my nukes, I'm like, well, let me try out some Emperors in the off season as I was coming back, and it seemed like I got my hands on some good ones that have some nice pop out of the hand, and I never actually had any like snap on a 12 speed coming out of my hand, but some of my Emperors I can actually hear actually hear a audible snap coming out of my hand, which happens for like fairways and lower. But I think just some of the Emperors that I happen to get my hands on, fit my hand well. They throw well. So luckily I have a couple backups of some of the Domi Emperors I have. So nukes and Emperors kind of take over my distance driver, and then that one Czar. So
Nice.
that kind of fills out. I have multiple stabilities of both the nuke and the Emperor. So
And
I
then
think I probably bag. I think it was like 5 Emperors right now. So
oh, geez.
yeah.
Do you have different plastics, or is it just the level of wear?
Yeah, so I have 3 Halo Emperors. Kind of my go-to Halo Emperor is this like red and orange X out Halo Emperor that I got. It's really domey, and I got a couple more of them. And the red and orange ones seem to be like a completely different dome, different feel than the other Halos, which were really, really stable. And the ones that had a lot more dome have a ton of glide. but they're still stable, so they can fight winds. You can really, really hammer on them, and they always come back. But they have a ton of glide. It's probably my furthest hyzer throwing. So I leaned on it a lot this last weekend. It was kind of my first tournament throwing it because I didn't need it at my starting tournament of the year.
Wide fields fairway course for you?
Yeah, fairways and my buzzes. I throw a lot of them. But that Emperor I really, really leaned on. It's a orange rim and a red center. So if you're looking to get into Emperors,
Find those ones.
find those. I think they're the best throwing Halo Emperors that I have right now. But the other ones I have some iBlend,
Okay.
which is more like a pro / EcoStar / just like a little bit. It's like not really a baseline plastic, but it flies really nice out in Colorado.
Yeah.
If you're looking to get something that'll actually have some glide and hold a straight line. So,
Cool.
And then fairways are, like you said already, they're pretty infinite heavy, which I can attest. I actually very much enjoy the infinite lineup. I was going to bag the Centurion for USAMs, but I honestly found that they were going too far for what I wanted a 7-speed disc to do. They were going almost as far as my escapes, and there was not really a reason to bag both of them.
Yep.
So I went with something that wasn't getting as much distance. But the Centurion that you gave me, that Color Glow green one,
yeah,
it is nice and stable for me, and I can rip on it, and it goes a good ways.
Yeah, I love the Centurion. I bag 2 right now because kind of my fairway lineup is it's all infinite, and I've really, really loved the Centurion, the Exodus, and the Scepter. I think they all complement each other really well. It's why I have a hard time putting in that like 9-10 speed driver. The Centurion goes so far, and the Exodus also goes really far. The Exodus is probably like my go-to fairway for everything. Even if I don't know if I should be throwing a fairway driver or a distance driver, I'll just throw an Exodus. I can push it out past 400 feet if I want to sometimes, and it's a 7-speed. I've never been able to say that with a 7-speed until I started throwing the Exodus a little bit more. I used to throw FDs a lot.
It feels like the Centurion and like Exodus are like FD2 or old FD2. Is it similar in that regard to you? And then also like the Scepter being like an FD3 essentially?
Yeah, I think so. So the Scepter is very much like a Firebird, the flat top Firebirds.
Which Mr. Harris bags a Scepter.
Yeah, so Scepters are awesome. Probably my most thrown disc this weekend. Was my Drew Gibson Color Glow Scepter.
What color did you throw?
The pink one. Okay. So I have pink, blue, and yellow. But the pink one is probably my favorite thrower right now. I actually have a few more back here kind of as backups for those once the pink one kind of wears in a little too much. But it's that pink Scepter. The Scepter in general is probably my most thrown disc this weekend between the 3 that I bag. Just because the winds come up, then I'm throwing a incredibly overstable Scepter. Just feel comfortable throwing my flippy Scepter because it kind of flies like a Thunderbird. I throw the Scepter a lot, and then I have 2 Exodus in my bag, which unfortunately I lost my favorite Exodus in a practice round before 303. It was the one with the team stamp Lincoln with the with my like signature right above it.
Dang!
My longest tenured infinite disc in my bag.
Daggum. Where is it at? Let's go swimming.
It was in the rough. I even had to throw on video, and just could not find it.
Really?
Looked for it for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
The course got too dark, and there was a lot of rampant homeless people on the course, and they kind of made me leave the course early, and I never got that one back. So it's
Dang.
out there somewhere. I do not
Or
know.
some hobos having a good time playing disc
Yeah.
golf.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this Micah disc.
Hey, if he enjoys it, all the best to him. So, but yeah, I kind of got back up one now. I throw a lot of color glow discs in that fairway slot. They feel really good. That newer color glow.
We're big fans of the color glow plastic on this podcast.
Yeah, that's good. So it's probably my favorite plastic to throw when it comes to the fairways for sure. So that kind of completes the. Oh, absolutely.
This is a
Oh.
Micah special right here. Color Glow FD3, which is my
Color Glow
favorite mold of all
FD3.
time.
Yeah. That's a great disc. I remember having a handful of those and working my way through a few. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, those were really nice.
So that's pretty much fairways for you, right?
Yep.
Mid ranges, we already know there's the Buzz. Does the Buzz have a partner?
So everything Buzz and lower. I haven't found a infinite mold that I really like to consistently throw. There's been some that have come in and out, but the Buzz, I have 3 Buzzes in my bag of different stabilities, and I also have a Buzz OS. So
I didn't know that.
the Buzz OS is more for when like the winds come up. If I need something that will only go 350 feet and never any further, like I can just hit the Buzz OS as hard as I want, and I know it's never going to flip over. If a wind comes up and I need something that's faster than a zone, I'll just throw the Buzz OS. But it's kind of been in and out of the bag, and finally I just realized that I need it more than I don't. So, but I bag a 4-claw Buzz, which is really stable. So it's just kind of a step under the Buzz OS. I found a blue one that's really stable back in the day, and I still throw it, and it's really stable. And then
I like that Buzz.
And then kind of my legendary Terry Roethlisberger Buzz that he gave me was 2021 Tour Series Roethlisberger ESP Buzz. It's got the most throws in my bag since before the 2021 season. That disc is kind of legendary in my bag. It's kind of dead straight at this point in time in Colorado, so it's at sea level is probably pretty flippy now. And then I just have like a flippier ESP, really old ESP Buzz for straight shots. It kind of flies like a Buzz, like an understable Buzz, that like drifting shot, kind of like a Buzz SS in a sense. But that's kind of my fairway or my mid ranges. It's just controlled by the Buzz right now. So
yeah, which is pretty common to see. A mid-range section kind of just be 1 or 2 discs.
Yeah, and for
especially
a while,
when you have so many in stages of wear and
exactly, and when it comes to like mid ranges and lower, you're not really losing them because you're not throwing them on like blind shots around corners and crazy distance lines and over the water necessarily. So I fortunately haven't really lost any mid ranges and lower to say, I have to switch to Chariot or something like that. And I've tried the Chariot out. I'm just not a huge fan. But the Buzz just has never done me wrong. So
nice. Have you tried like any other companies than the Buzz, like than Discmania or Discraft?
I actually have tried the MVP Hex a little bit this off season, which was really fun to throw.
I seem to remember you liking the Pathfinder.
Yeah, I did for a few throws. I did really like the Pathfinder.
To give context, we played a course down in the Springs that was kind of wooded, and he threw the Buzz, and it hit like a it didn't go where he wanted it to, right? And I was like, dude, you need to just throw the Pathfinder. And so he's like, all right, fine. So he throws the Pathfinder and he parks it. And so then, like, the next 2 times that he threw the buzz, I was like, no, you need to throw the Pathfinder. And then he threw the Pathfinder and parked it. So I
Yeah,
was like,
I don't think I've ever played a hole with a Pathfinder and haven't parked it. So,
which is like, what,
maybe
3
I
or
should
4
get a
holes?
Pathfinder. Yeah, maybe my percentage with the Pathfinder is incredible. So maybe I should get a Pathfinder.
Lean on statistics. We're playing Moneyball here.
Yeah. So maybe in the future I'll try out a Pathfinder. I know that isn't it a smaller diameter mid range?
Mhm.
So
Yep, which I like because I have
unique.
tiny baby hands, but you're 6'5", so you don't really have that issue.
Yeah, I honestly I don't mind it. Smaller diameter is less chance of hitting a tree. So
Play the statistics, baby.
Exactly.
statistics game.
Yeah.
So but yeah,
It's
just
like,
to kind of finish off the rest of my bag. We
Yeah,
talked
putters.
about the logics, but I throw the zone backhand and forehand. I have a 2020 Tour Series zone that I throw kind of all over the place.
It's got one of the sickest stamps on it. Do you have it next to you or is it in the truck?
It's in my truck. It's a quick ball, like a Pokeball
Nice.
stamp on the
And
disc.
it's a Brian Earhart Tour Series zone wiped with a dope Pokeball stamp on it.
Yeah, it's
Which this is
has a ton
fantastic
of throws
buzz
on
right
it,
here.
but, oh yeah, I think or zone. That zone right there is probably my favorite throwing zone when it comes to which run.
What about these? These are the 2019s.
The 2019s, I don't think I ever threw them.
These ones are stable.
That 2020 zone is actually the first zone that's when I started throwing the zone. So I never threw anything before it. I have some that I've gotten, but I like how do the 6 claw zones throw?
They're pretty much just a stock ESP zone.
Yeah. So
which is good. Like it
Yeah.
flies like you want an ESP zone to fly. It's not super beefy,
right.
so it flies pretty true out of the box. But they're a little like this one's a little bit more puddle topped, which I enjoy. And then this Ezra Glow Zone is a lot of puddle top, which is really nice.
Sure. Yeah.
And is the Zone OS making an appearance in your bag?
It eventually might.
Have you thrown one yet?
I've only seen them thrown. I haven't really even attempted to even grab one. I saw one of my buddies, Isaac, was throwing one this last weekend and he loves it.
We'll play and I'll let you throw this guy. It's stupid overstable.
Yeah, sometimes you need that though.
Right. Which is I was like, nah, it's not gonna make my bag. I'm not even gonna need it. Yeah. And then I figured out, if I throw it at less power, I can actually get it to kind of move the way I want to.
Mm-hmm.
But if you throw it with, a lot of speed, then it just it just does a mini tilt move and just dumps out on you.
Yeah, it's one of those that the tilt itself, the harder you throw a tilt, the more stable it is.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but it's actually kind of sick.
Yeah. So, I do throw a P2 yet. It was out of the bag for a while, and I was throwing the Envy, and then I'm like, I don't really like the Envy.
You were throwing the Alpaca, correct?
I was throwing the Alpaca for a while too. And then I just have this trusty Sky God 3 that's been in my bag since it came out. It's got a handful or more aces on it. It's just
humble brag.
Can make it Anheuser, can make it Heiser at any level of elevation. So nice. That one will probably stay in the bag until it breaks. Right. So
the Sky God.
Yeah. So
nice. Again, color glow plastic.
Yeah. And then the last thrower that I have is an Exo Soft Logic. That has surprisingly been thrown a ton versus the Sky God because of how straight it is, as well as how soft it lands on the greens.
Is it understable or is it just pretty straight?
It's understable. What I like to do is just kind of soft toss it down. There was a couple of really tight gap shots in some of the holes out at 303, and I just like to put it on a ton of not a ton of hyzer, but let's say it's 10 degree or 15 degree hyzer.
Yeah.
And it just stands up straight and it just goes dead straight. So I really like throwing the ExoSoft logic, and I can't wait. Hopefully they come out with a premium plastic pretty soon. So
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't.
I would think pretty soon they will. So
Nice. Mike, any questions on the bag before we move into some dealer's choice-esque questions?
Not really. The only thing would be like, when do you decide to replace a disc in your bag and cycle a new one in? And also, do you change your bag very much for different elevations? Like, we know you're in Colorado, that adds a little bit of stability. Are you changing it up significantly, or you just rely on those more overstable discs?
That's a great question.
Yeah, no, that is a great question, because I do travel every year for a tournament here or there.
And also
down,
for
back
work.
down sea level. Yeah, traveling for work. I end up, leaning more on the overstable discs that I don't throw very often out here, and they generally fly, a lot further, and they actually can shape shots. So,
would you say they fly further at low elevation or at higher elevation?
I personally think that discs, my furthest throw that I've ever thrown was at lower elevation, and I think it's just because I don't naturally have a ton of understable discs. So a lot of my discs end up fading out. So
It's fair.
yeah, and the
Welcome to
discs
Colorado.
don't make it very long in my bag to get beat up and really glidey and understable. I end up throwing them on crazy lines and losing them before that. So I personally think that I can throw a little bit further back in, the Midwest or something, because of the ability to shot shape. I don't know if it's because of the thinner air out here. Maybe you can throw further, but what I've noticed is maybe I can throw a little bit further in lower elevations just because of shot shape ability. So
That's nice.
But just to answer your question, Michael, what I would say when I think about replacing a disc or adding a new disc to my bag, I don't like to do anything during the season necessarily, unless it's a disc that I used to throw, or one that cycled its way out of the bag, or for whatever reason I stopped throwing it. But like, to add a brand new disc into the bag, if I lose a disc, then obviously you got to replace it. But generally, it's if, let's say it's my scepter, and my scepter starts flipping over or starts doing things that I don't want it to do, and I need a new S-Blend scepter that'll just push straight and then hyzer. Mine right now will push straight, it'll turn a little bit, and then it'll hyzer. If I feel like I don't have that shot anymore, something that fits my game, then I'll go to my stack of scepters and be like, all right, which one do I want to go out to the field, try some? Which one do I want to fill into that slot? And just start growing trust with it a little bit. So.
Nice.
And Micah works a full-time job, but also plays more disc golf than
a lot of people.
I wish I could play as much disc golf as he does.
Yeah,
Granted,
I don't play as
I've
much.
I've got two kids, and Micah's living that bachelor life right now. But
yeah, no kids over here. But what I would say is I try to keep my work-life balance stronger by staying engaged in disc golf. I do work a pretty stressful and heavy workload type of job as an engineer, about 50 hours a week. But then, normally head straight to hopefully more tags matches, but like straight to a course. get some putting in, or if I feel like I need to leave the office around lunch, I'll just go to the nearest course and I'll putt for 30 minutes and just kind of take a break. So it's always been that kind of relief. It used to be school, now it's work. Kind of serves the same purpose for me. So.
Nice.
I love that we've heard a little of the Midwesterner or North Midwesterner sneak in talking about his bag a little bit in there.
Bag.
So I'm happy to hear that. I don't feel like it comes out too much. Maybe it's just because you're tired and we're recording this later in the evening. But
yeah.
Couple fun questions, like in the bag-esque questions before we turn it to you for a couple of pointers for us, a little 2-minute drill action. Who or was there a player that you modeled your game after as you were coming up in the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's between Simon and Paul. I like to say that I used to like to try to take those crazy lines like Simon and like for no reason at all take a over the top shot when there's a gap right in front of you, or try to throw down a roller with a disc that you shouldn't be rolling. That makes the game fun, right? But when it comes to you want to break your course record or you want to beat your brothers, I always tried to focus on like kind of how Paul McBeth carries himself on the course. He's the Tiger Woods of disc golf, right? He's the guy that you want to model your game off of. He's very professional. He kind of seems to do everything, the right way when it comes to playing.
He's also got a couple of pretty solid like Tiger fist pump moments.
Oh yeah,
such as USDGC last year.
Absolutely.
On that playoff. I felt like that was very Tiger-esque,
USDGC, the World Championships last year when he hit that like 100-footer.
Oh my gosh, on like 16 or 17 or whatever it was.
And unfortunately it was to beat one of my good buddies, Aaron, but I've always loved the way that Paul carries himself on the course. Fortunately been able to meet him like once when I was younger and like have talked to him briefly through Joey Tamale on the phone and stuff like that, but he's kind of just the guy that I've like, if he's in contention, I'd like to just root for him, right? So
nice. And Micah is pretty well connected within the disc golf community, as in, I believe you said that your best friend growing up was, or maybe not growing up, but one of your best friends is Terry Roethlisberger. You're close with a couple other players on tour. Like you said, you're friends with Aaron Gossage. You're pretty well connected within the disc golf community.
Yeah, just through, sometimes friends of friends. Sometimes it just kind of, falls on my plate. Like last year making a lead card at 303, you get to play with Joel Freeman, Kyle Klein. Aaron, and just sometimes being able to play with the guys in a round, it's like, one of those moments that growing up you're watching Jomez or you're watching Central Coast or Gatekeeper, and then all of a sudden you find yourself on a Gatekeeper card last year, and it was like, whoa, like hang on, like if I was like a 12-year-old Micah, like I would have probably been watching this coverage. So it was kind of cool in that sense, and being able to play with these guys, and maybe going out to last year I played a Silver Series at Belton, and was able to caddy for Terry at Waco and see Casey White, who's a good buddy of mine from Minnesota and on tour, and anytime he's around town, being able to see Casey White's great, part of the whole disc golf community, and then through them meeting Simon or meeting Emerson or Joel Freeman or people like that, being able to meet those people in person outside of disc golf, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's unique, growing up feeling like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to meet those people someday, and then having them recognize you on a on a course is pretty cool.
It also helps a little bit that you're 990 plus rated and can hang with them.
I heard
like a good amount of time.
I heard
realistically,
Joel Freeman say something this last weekend on the practice green. He said something like, "If only your rating made you play better." Right. So, fortunately,
sure,
you
but it paints
play.
the picture that you have the capability to hang with those types of players. I'm just praying that I can break even at the toboggan, whereas that's a course where a player of your level would probably shred pretty well.
I like to think so, but I think I was humbled by a couple courses around Colorado, which is in the past few weeks, and I would like to say I could
You
shred.
ride the waves.
But yeah, as long as I don't have to throw a bunch of forehands like I had to do out at Maple Hill, I would like to say I could give myself.
That's the course where I'm like, let me throw a bunch of forehands. I wouldn't say I'm a forehand specialist, but it is an equal strength of my game.
Maple Hill is probably the most righty friendly course I've played. So you got to have a lot of clockwise spinning discs on that course, I like to say. So
it's a good way to phrase it. A couple other ones for you. What is your favorite mold of all time? And then also run of that mold.
That's a good question. The P2. The P2 got me. I never threw backhands before I started throwing a putter backhand. So I remember seeing Simon and Paul throwing the P2, and actually the wall in front of me is full of a bunch of Paul Macbeth P2s. This is like a Paul Macbeth P2.
S-Line P2.
S-Line P2. It was my favorite disc when I was younger. I have like a disc with, I think it's like 8 or 9 aces on it. It's a Paul Macbeth P2.
And your collection is pretty extensive, which leads me to my next question, which is, what is the most valuable disc you own? And maybe we'll go value to you, and then also dollar value.
Yeah, my most valuable to me, and I think I know exactly where it is. It would be that P2 that I just said. I was just looking at it the other day.
The ace on.
It's kind of full of aces. So I wrote all my aces on it. Those are all, I mean,
for you audience listeners, or audio listeners in the audience, the entire bottom of the rim in the full 2-lined circle is full of ace information.
Yeah, I started having to go to third line. So I filled the rim and then I filled 2 circles. So
I didn't even see the rim.
Yeah, the rim is also full.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh.
But
so that's probably the most valuable to you. What about
that's
most
the most
dollar value?
When it comes to like dollar value, I think I have like a pretty unique, it's like a McPro AVR with like bottom stamp of all of his rounds from, I believe it was like his highest average rating season or something like that.
Was it the season that he never finished outside of the podium except for like once?
I think so. But it's incredibly swirly and I could probably get a pretty penny for it. But then again, there's probably a lot of Discmania discs that I have, like glow this, glow that, of really old runs of MD3s or something like that.
The claw MD3s.
Yeah, that I probably, or like I heard that some of the Iron Samurai ones that I have could go for a couple $100 now. And I'm like thinking to myself, man, I used to throw those, right? Like I have a stack of, Iron Samurai 1s and 2s there that I used to throw, and I'm like, man, like maybe they're better sold, but like they've helped me win some, fun tournaments or fun rounds, and they mean more to me than, $100 to sell it, right?
So Michael, the disc rack behind him, that's kind of like used stuff. That's not collector stuff.
Oh, I'm
He's
sure.
He's got bins with all the discs in like bags, and he let me kind of just. I didn't fully go through all of them, but he like pulled probably like, I don't know, a couple dozen. Like, oh yeah, look at this one. Oh yeah, look at this one. I'm just like, dude, this is thousands of dollars worth of like
I don't
discs.
let a lot of people see those discs. So.
It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I was kind of geeking out, but also a little bit nervous that I was gonna ruin one. I
also have I had a weird kind of phase of buying the James Conrad JC AVRs. And I have like a stack of them.
The JC JKs.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but like every time I saw one, it was like, $12 or $15, and I'm like, well, why not? Like, they're gonna be worth something someday. So I just like found myself having a stack of the JC AVRs. Right, they feel great, but I will probably never throw them. It's just like I like to call it just my card collection. So people collect cards. These discs, I don't know if I ever really want to sell them.
We collect discs.
Yeah.
So
that's sick.
Do you remember when you were starting? You said your older brother played, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember kind of what the first discs that you got your hands on was or were?
Yeah, it was a Whammo Frisbee.
Nice.
So we would go as a family, and my dad had a disc, and we had Frisbees, and it was like a Whammo Frisbee. I remember it was a course in Wisconsin that I actually got to play a couple weeks ago when I was at home. It was the first course I ever remember playing with the family, and this is probably, maybe I'm like 10 years old, 12 years old, something like that. And I remember saying, going out with a friend, a family friend, Jordan. He was into disc golf, and so was my older brother. They were the same age, and they had like this. I don't even think it was a Destroyer back then. It was like a T-Bird, and my brother had a Gator, and a Viking or something like that. And just walking around with them, like, brother wouldn't let me throw a disc because I couldn't throw it very far. And it's like, we're at this course called Ohauser or something, some course in Wisconsin, and there's like a marsh carry, and it was like 150 feet. My brother's like, no, you can't throw it because you can't clear that marsh. Like, so down the road, I ended up getting my own disc, and it was a Walmart DX Archangel. I still have it to this day.
Awesome.
The flight plate's all cracked up and everything. It's in one of my bins.
You didn't lose that one?
What's that?
You didn't lose that one?
Well, it's been passed around amongst my family, but it still has my name.
That I got lost completely.
I
water,
definitely
in Texas,
lost a lot of the discs that really meant a lot to my game back in the day in the water. And I mean, the whole disc golf community laughs at this disc, but the Champion Groove, I had found one on a course. It said Mary on the bottom. I was really young.
Have you been searching for Mary ever since?
Yeah, long lost Mary. All it said was Mary on the bottom, and it was a tie-dye Champion Groove. That disc probably got me into disc golf.
Nice.
Until I threw it in the water. And a year later on the same course, I found the same exact disc. It said Mary on the bottom, and it was a Champion Groove, and it was dyed. And it was the same exact disc, and I found it on a different hole, but I definitely tossed it in the water.
No way.
And
that's awesome.
Summer later, I threw it in the water again, but
somebody else has probably done the same thing now to it, huh?
Yeah, it was never meant to be. The Champion Groove was really kind of a funny disc that got me into disc golf. I used to just, when I was little, and I just wrench over on forehands, and it would just go forever. But I actually won a unsanctioned rec tournament when I was a kid with my brother. Gave me an EcoStar Groove. And that's the only disc I had, and it's the only disc I threw, and it was one disc.
Putted with it?
I putted with it.
Oh my God. That's
I
awesome.
would throw forehand rollers with it to go left because I never threw backhands. It was an EcoStar groove, and it was a green one, and my brother had that. And but after that, I mean, high school hit. My older brother and his cross country friends used to play disc golf a lot in our high school town. And then he started inviting me along, and I kind of just started. I mean, story goes from there, right?
Nice.
I just kind of fell in love. We've all hit that point where it's just like, man, you just can't buy enough discs, or so.
When did you finally? Well, I'm just gonna guess you're better than him right now, right? When
Yes.
when did your level overtake his?
And how pissed was he?
Man, he probably remembers it a little bit more because we're all really competitive.
So you have
And
2 older brothers?
I have an older brother and a younger brother.
Younger brother. Okay.
We used to go play this small 9-hole course with a front 9, back 9 in Horicon, Wisconsin. And we'd try to just chase down the best score there. And it was when I think I broke the course record there. And I don't even remember what score it was. It was like 14 down or something like that at this course.
Dang.
And I think I beat him by like 2 strokes or something like that. And that's when I remember being like, man, like he probably still beat me like 2 out of 3 rounds at that point in time. But it was when my game was on, like I could beat anyone on the course, right? So
Yeah.
But it wasn't really like, oh man, like one summer hit and all of a sudden I was better than him. It was, we both got into tournaments at the same exact time. I think it was 2014. Maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was later than that. But we both got our like PDGA numbers really close to each other. And I think I started playing tournaments in 2017. Like actual sanctioned tournaments. And then I just kind of, we were all in school, and I moved out to college, and disc golf was kind of all I did outside of school. So I got pretty good at it
Nice.
around that time. So
I'd say you're pretty good at it, but whatever.
Yeah, I remember there was some rounds. I went to school in Winona, Minnesota. There were some rounds
That's fun
that
to
were
say.
just like, yeah,
Winona,
yeah.
Minnesota.
Winona, Minnesota. There were some rounds that were just like, I remember to this day, and it was 6 years ago. I remember certain rounds where I shot like 17 down with 2 aces or something like that.
Wow.
Around.
Nice.
And there were just some crazy rounds, and then all of a sudden I'm like, like I just really want to be like compete at the highest level. So I started playing in advanced tournaments. Got done with college, and I'm like, okay, one more advanced year, because now I can actually focus on disc golf and see how it goes, and then I'll move up to pro. Ended up winning the Majestic Amateur in Minnesota, which is probably the biggest well-known amateur tournament in Minnesota. Maybe Minnesota AMs, but Majestic is at BRP, and it's just an amazing course, amazing tournament. And I happened to win that, and after that, I'm like, I won the Minnesota AM Majestic, and it felt great, but like the professional players played the weekend after, and they would have completely kicked my butt, right? So it didn't feel like I was like I actually won. So I'm like, you know what? I need to play against professionals and the highest level in order to feel like I'm actually going to win, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I started making that jump.
Nice.
Fine. Here's a question. Why isn't Blue Ribbon Pines on the Disc Golf Pro Tour? Is it not good enough for? There's a couple
Short answer-
semi-gimmicky holes.
Short answer, it's not. I mean,
Because it's a sweet course.
It's an awesome course. Don't get me wrong. It's
It's
probably
not quite
in my
pro.
top 5.
It's probably
It's
what
not-
outgrown by the pro tour or by the like touring
Yeah.
pros.
Yeah. So even myself, if I go out there, I don't need anything really more than a buzz
Oh,
to play
dang.
that course. There's maybe 2 or 3 holes that you need more than a buzz.
Do you think there's capability to grow that course to actually like be longer, or is it kind of capped out?
They do some fun kind of stretched out layouts that are awesome. Yeah, I haven't been back there in a while, and they do some fun stuff with the course, but I think I think there's 27 holes out there. 27. If they turn the 27 into a really good 18, there might be a possibility. But it's in a weird location. It's north of the Twin Cities. I guess some of the Pro Tour, courses are a little out in the middle of nowhere. But I think there's different qualifications for having events too, for like how much, parking space and
Right.
other things.
The
I know that
logistical
Worlds
stuff.
has that, but like logistically, I mean, it could probably host, a Silver Series maybe type tournament, but I don't know. It's more of those like show off the arm style courses that seem to do really well on the Pro Tour.
Unfortunately,
I don't know if I like watching that kind of golf, but I also don't watch too much disc golf anymore. But
it's fair. We on this podcast we tend to have a good number of discussions. We'll call them because
Sure.
they're not really debates, but like discussions as to like where does the Pro Tour need to be going in terms of course
Sure.
level, in terms of like
well,
touring
I
pros.
have
So we tend to talk a lot about that, and I totally forgot about Blue Ribbon Pine.
Yeah. I mean, I have a question for you guys then. On the Pro Tour, do you think that there's something that they could do to kind of spice it up a little bit? Because I have my kind of not strong opinion, but a newer opinion that I've had within the last few years that I really think they should make a change, and I don't know if they will or not, but I was curious if you guys had.
You're saying to spice up the Pro Tour?
Yeah, to make some of these events that are, like Jonesboro. It's kind of been the same course since I started watching disc golf. Or Idlewild, or the Country Club course out at Emporia.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if this is answering your question, but it was a thought that just popped into my mind. We talk about like Team Discraft or Team Infinite, right? Like members of a team. We need to have a couple of events that are team specific events, and you play doubles.
Yeah.
And like each sponsor can have like 2 or 3 teams max. So like it's kind of like you have your team captain Paul Ulibarri, and he sucks. No offense, Paul. We love you, and you're welcome on the pod whenever you want. But like, what is he doing as team captain? He's not really doing anything,
Yeah.
But if he were to like actually like a Ryder Cup kind of thing, but like maybe just like for disc golf sponsored players, I don't know. I think that would be very entertaining to watch for sure.
Yeah.
That's not really answering the development of the Pro Tour, but that just popped into my head, and I thought it was pretty cool actually.
Sure. No, just kind of a spice up kind of event. Something
Change pace.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike?
It's hard. I mean, being able to watch a full flight of a disc on a golf course is very satisfying. It draws a lot more attention than the tight wooded golf.
Easier to have spectators.
Easier to have spectators. I just think the future of disc golf is going to be in manufactured plots of land that are specific for disc golf. Creating a hole 16 at Emporia along with a hole 17 at USDGC, along with a hole 1 at Maple Hill, all on the same property.
Like, what's the course in Missouri?
Eagles Landing,
Yeah.
something like that. Like, I just think we have outgrown the pick a golf course and go around that park style. And I think we've also kind of outgrown the older traditional, I mean, even like a Blue Ribbons Pines, like we're past that type of course. The Jonesboro, the Idlewild, it is kind of the same thing over and over again. But I also kind of like that. You know, I was watching Jonesboro and you have that whole recognition, that course recognition, that you can say, oh, hole 8 at Jonesboro, like, oh yeah, I remember that's that tight shot, like someone
you can reference it and somebody else will know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, think about, you mentioned USDGC hole 17, right?
Yeah.
We all know what it is because it's been the same.
Pick out that Johnny McRae blow up, or that, you know, Paul hitting that putt on the island, or Gannon last year, right? Yeah. So like you could just like say the hole and recognize it. It's kind of like Augusta, like the Masters. It's my favorite thing to watch every single year. April comes around and I love it. And you can pick out,
it's electric.
You just say hole 16 and I'm like, I know exactly the hole, right? So
Amen corner. Like, oh yeah,
Amen corner. You know,
take me there.
You know the exact holes, right? I definitely agree. I think that is a unique thing to golf in general, because of the competitive nature of it, and that's what I love about. I used to ball golf a lot more, but the whole competitive nature is like consistency, and over the series of a couple rounds, can you stay consistent? But I still think that they need to kind of make it unique, because disc golf to me is so much more unique than ball golf, because you can do so many more things with a disc than you can a golf ball.
You can shape a shot.
You can shape shots.
You're limited in terms of what you can shape with a golf ball.
Yeah, and you can shape shots spinning it 2 different ways. You can throw different, driver, putter.
You can't get a golf ball to turn right and then turn left. Like, it's not happening.
It makes me think that, okay, there is a certain point in time that you need to differentiate yourself from ball golf, but there's also some things you can take from ball golf and the PGA Tour that I feel like disc golf needs to incorporate. One of that being pin placements. A lot of these top tier courses already have multiple pin placements on greens that force you to throw a different upshot, or really narrow the shot towards the green. So like give yourself the exact shot that you need to throw. But being able to move around a pin on the green, or let's say day 1 of the tournament at Jonesboro, they have the pins in scoreable positions, right? In the they're at right now. And then day 3, imagine hole 6, the water carry par 3. Everyone posted on Instagram, right? I was just talking to Paul Kranz this last weekend about that. Is what if day 3 they have that 6 feet off the water, or maybe a little more, 10 feet off the water?
Yeah,
where it's like
super cool.
Forcing them to be like, okay, if I get it really, really close and have to throw this super precise shot, I'm going to get the birdie. But also, if I throw the standard shot, I'm left at 35, 40 feet with a downhill putt towards the water on the final day.
Yeah.
It could build more, not drama, but like competitive nature in the players, where you don't have a runaway winner, or the tournament's never over till it's over.
Yeah.
That kind of feel always gets me hooked to watching, the PGA Tour. I love watching the PGA Tour because you never know if that guy's going to take a double bogey and hit it in the water on the, second to last hole.
Yeah.
Because the guy behind him is just waiting, he's just waiting on it. And like that final day, if they can make those pin positions in, tough to reach or, stretch it back 40 feet so that, when they're doing practice rounds, a lot of these courses already have baskets in multiple pin positions or multiple, baskets. Just leave the baskets in both pin positions for practice rounds. Day before the tournament, they have tons of volunteers.
Yeah.
Take out the long ones, right? And then mix it up. If you're having 3 rounds instead of 4, pick 3 pin positions and make these guys that are on the tour utilize the shots they have instead of throwing that same exact shot at the green every single time and saying, okay, go do it 3 times.
Yeah.
Like to every single shot, right? So, and the person that can do it 3 times the best wins.
Yeah.
That to me is disc golf. And Kelvin right now. So Kelvin can do it the most consistently.
Because he's a robot. But
well, and there's Chris Dickerson for a while, right? So
yeah. I think that point brings up a good kind of vision of courses being developed in the future, because you can build a course and say, like Maple Hill has their different layouts, right, with the different baskets and with the different tee pads or whatever. We've seen that, but we haven't seen, Maple Hill Golds have 2 or 3 pin locations, and changing each pin location each day would be super cool. So building courses moving forward, I'm thinking one day it's kind of, it finishes left and around a tree. Another day it finishes a little bit longer. Another day it finishes shorter and right. Like it's keeping the length of the hole within 40 feet.
Yeah,
per se.
And to Michael's point,
but it just changes.
It's still recognizable.
Right. Yeah.
Maple Hill hole 1.
You're like, final day. Sweet. Yeah. I know it's going to be, all the pins are going to be the hardest spots.
Yeah. Like maybe they push it back a little bit more into the woods, like even 20 feet. So that upshot that lands at 20 feet at the short pin is now 40-foot putt. And you really have
and if you're going to run that, there's a chance you go OB, and therefore there's going to be more deviation in scoring.
Yeah. And did
we just solve the Pro Tour?
I hope that they get there. It's been one of my thoughts, and I know I've heard some counter arguments to it, and I don't like the counter argument of, it's so much more work on the tournament staff, and I'm like,
great, it
cool.
should be,
and more with more work comes a better product, right? So, it's one of the things that, like, I don't know. I think that they should do that. Maybe someday when I get elected onto some Pro Tour board. No, I'm kidding. But
case in point, they're doing Worlds next year at New London in Lynchburg, and I don't know how much you've watched any of the Foundation disc golf YouTube pages, but like they play there all the time.
Yeah.
And we all know the first hole, it kind of bends or moves a little right, but you need it to bend a little left, but the basket's actually pretty straight line. So you need to kind of start right, move left,
a unique hole,
and finish right. We know where that basket is. That's a very tough location. What if you move the basket another, on the opposite end of that, or you have the basket on the left side? Like
like a good shot gets you to 40 feet. A great shot can maybe get you inside the circle, but like the standard shot leaves you outside the circle, at that 40 to 60 feet.
And there's OB at the course, so if you're off, you're... Yeah.
I think they could do that, where it's like, okay, if you really, really throw the perfect shot, you're going to get in the circle. But if you throw the standard golf shot, you're going to get to 40 to 50 feet, and you'll have a circle to look at getting a birdie. If you get the birdie, awesome, right? If you don't, it's okay to get a par, right? Or run that putt and you come back and you hit a bogey, tournament's not over at that point if you get a bogey. And I feel like Jonesboro, like
If you got a bogey,
you're
Yeah.
done. Well, in the first 2 rounds, but like if you got bogey, you're pretty much out of the running. So, but
yeah, agreed. We were talking last week how we think we've outgrown Jonesboro in its current format.
yeah, I think that there's definitely room out there for them. That's a huge property. Like there's definitely room out there for them to not just it's stretched out. I think that course is like 10,000 feet,
Wow.
maybe even more. But they've kind of done as much as they can when it comes to stretching the course. But like, being able to challenge these guys to not throw the exact same shots that they do 5 days in a row, right, with practice rounds and everything. But like, okay, this time instead of having it on the right side of the hill, it's over the hill and straight, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like it.
You brought up that point on talking about New London, how a great shot leaves you kind of inside the circle's edge, and then your stock shot leaving you 40 to 50 feet. Do you think, I mean, I look at someone like Gannon, Isaac Robinson, all the top putters, that is just as makeable for them as it is for a 25-footer for the majority of people.
Right.
Do you feel like, I mean, this is what ball golf has, is it is a lot harder to roll the ball over a undulated surface and get into that small hole. Do you feel like putting in disc golf is too easy, and that is something that they could look at to making those 40-footer, like it makes you try put it closer so you can make it as opposed to just cashing on your long putts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a few things on that. I remember back in the day when Paul Macbeth said, something about the baskets need to be smaller and putting is not hard enough, right? I think that, baskets need to be better standardized. The baskets this last weekend at 303. Agreed. No offense to whoever made the decision to put those baskets into 303.
They look great.
They look great. They were terrible.
They
were absolutely
I thought I loved them, but nope.
There was a guy filming our round, the last round, unfortunately, and I shot really, really poorly and putt 36% from circle 1. But it also didn't help that I had a putt come right back at me from 5 feet and a putt come right back at me from 8 feet. And they were putts that 99.9% of them stay in the basket on any basket. And that basket, I saw more, I saw Harry have a spit out. I saw Joe Revere have a spit out or two. I heard of a handful of other ones, but like that part of disc golf to me is very frustrating because it can be fixed. Like the technology of a basket can be researched and really, really, I should just say better and more consistent.
Yeah.
The Pro Tour can carry 18 baskets around with them. Yeah. And they're putting on the most consistent, the best basket out there.
You don't see a golf course have different shaped holes.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it should be it should be fully tested and everything, but like a basket could sponsor the Pro Tour and a company could give 18 baskets to the Pro Tour and they carry around 18 baskets. And all of the players approve that are on tour, because I feel like the players should be able to speak that are on tour because they're the ones that are creating the product, right?
Yeah.
So I just don't think that a basket should be the reason why, someone loses. Well, down the road, there'll be more money in it, but like loses or wins a tournament. It's not like millions of dollars they're losing, but like sometimes it is. Like if Aaron Gossage would have won last year, or let's say he lost the world championships on a 5-foot spit out. Yeah. It's not that, I made $20,000 less. It's all of the endorsements. You're not the world champion at that point, right?
Yeah.
You're the runner up.
Yeah.
But it also might take something like that to actually incite a change.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It
No,
could.
no offense to Aaron. Aaron,
Yeah.
we love you. We want you to win worlds, but
Yeah.
like if something like that happened, there would be an uproar.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like everyone would feel sick about it, and you don't see like a different cup size at one tournament and not on the PGA Tour, and you can only compare the sports so much. But
Well, we don't need to talk about cup sizes on this podcast, but
yeah, well, yeah, but the
that was an
those
inappropriate joke. I apologize.
yeah.
Well,
But like, when you think of like the randomness of sports, that's what people get frustrated with.
Sure.
Refereeing. There's no refs necessarily in golf, and that's what I
Well,
like about it.
Maybe there should be.
Maybe sometimes there's certain cards that do have, course officials that follow them around, but that's for
Nico. I mean,
that's for good reason, I would say.
Yeah.
And I've seen other cards with it too. I guess there was one. It was Jonesboro at the tournament before or something. But yeah, I think that there's definitely these like kind of blaringly obvious changes that I wouldn't say need to be made, but like
if we want to grow the sport,
could
should be made.
But I think there's ones that will be made in the future as time goes on that will help the sport only, and it's not going to hurt the sport to make a basket more standardized, right? And that's not going to hurt the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do you watch, let's say, Worlds out at Utah and be like, man, those Latitude 64 baskets, I'm going to go buy one of those because I saw Latitude 64 on a basket, even though Emerson Keith splashes out 3 times in one round. You're not going to want to go buy that basket. So, I mean, I don't want to go bashing on baskets on a podcast, but
we already did that. That was earlier this year.
It can be frustrating to see that watching, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel like every other major sport has a standardized, like basketball has a standardized basketball. They're using the same. I think it's Wilson or Spalding. The hoop is the same one no matter what arena you're in. Soccer has the same ball, same goal size. Like every sports equipment that those major sports are using is uniform and standardized throughout the performance.
So what's the best basket on tour as of today? If we were to put them all across, what would you guys be most happy with?
I like the Chain Star Pros.
Discraft.
Yeah.
I agree.
You'll be putting on those out in Michigan.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that they're a really, really fair basket. I've played on them a few times.
I agree.
And then the Innova 28 chains. I really just like that basket. It's a good standard basket. Certain people are like, oh no, like the Mach X and this and that. And like,
get out of here.
The standard 28 chain Innova basket, this catcher basket. I mean,
those the yellow topped ones.
The yellow top ones.
Yeah, those are kind of like
what you compare everything to.
Yeah, what you expect. And I actually I agree. I think Discraft is better. I really enjoy the veteran baskets, although I don't think that they're the best. I enjoy them, but I don't think they're the best.
A used veteran basket is better than a new one. I think their chains are pretty slippery.
Slip chains.
They are. And then like when your disc is spinning in the cage. But there's part of me that like enjoys
the nice painted cage.
Yeah. We crapped on baskets earlier this year, namely Prodigy and although Michael, I think you should share your opinion with Micah on
I like them.
Baskets.
I don't mind them because I feel like you have to.
Michael must putt dead center all the time.
Michael is a great putter.
That's what I aim for. That's my aiming point when I'm putting. I'm like, I don't need to look at this specific chain. I'm looking 6 inches over the cage, center pole. That's where I'm aiming.
Sure.
And I hit it about 0 times, but that's where I'm aiming. It gives me my biggest margin of error.
Sure.
If I miss.
Agreed. But why do you like the Prodigy baskets again?
I don't remember. Just you can throw it like if you have a bad putt, it'll punish you, and if you have a good putt, solid putt, it'll catch and stay.
Yeah, I like that because I mean the one thing that I think Prodigy baskets are pretty fair. They have them out at Blue Ribbon Pines. I don't like putting into a Prodigy basket in the headwind.
I could agree.
Because they never
But-
stay in.
Yeah, or if they're
They-
elevated. I
They
don't
have them at Roy G, and I felt like
Sure.
I couldn't get a putt to stay in there.
Yeah, and when you're putting in a headwind or you're putting it like an elevated basket, putting up at them, they seem to be pretty inconsistent. But
Mhm.
I don't like how they give. So I think if you putt too hard, I think that's a bad putt. And you putt too hard and it chains out, or you putt too hard and it comes back at you, or straight off the pole. That to me is a bad putt. Even though it
Gannon.
hits dead center, comes right back at you, you miss the putt because you have to learn that pace is part of putting. Or if you putt too softly and it hits the chain and flops out the side or something like that,
And
like you miss
that's
the putt.
comparable to golf.
Yeah,
You have to have
exactly.
you have to have the right line and tempo.
Speed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
And
think
yeah, you can
pace
get
is
lucky hitting
really
the back of
important.
the cup and bouncing up and dropping in, but that's
You can
that's-
also get lucky in disc golf too. So
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's
It's
one of
kind of
those things that pace is really cool part of disc golf because putting in disc golf is so much easier, like you said, Michael, than putting in golf, right? Putting in golf that's incredibly hard compared to putting in disc golf, right?
the average Joe is like a 3 or 4 putter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like
Whereas
to
in disc
always
golf, the
think,
average
like,
Joe is like a 2 putter.
yeah, and I always like to think like what distance in disc golf is like a 10-foot putt in golf?
Well, 10
The
foot.
10-foot putt in
they're
golf is
50%,
best in
right?
golf. Yeah,
Isn't the tour
yeah.
average
On the pro
50%
tour,
from-
yeah,
like-
Yeah.
It's like 30 for the average player, but maybe 35, 36.
I would think
Uh-huh.
like a 10-foot putt in golf is like a 50-foot putt in disc golf.
Yeah.
50.
I could agree.
For like the top
the,
guys,
the amount of times they make to miss ratio, 45, 50.
maybe 40, 45-ish, maybe 50. Like if you give it to like a really good tournament, like golf tournament, and someone like kills it from 10 and in. But like if you think about pro tour, like, or disc golf pro tour, if someone kills it on the putting green, like Isaac Robinson or something, he's making everything from 50 and in. You know? So I don't know. I always I like the comparison between the two sports, because I've played both a lot and I like the comparisons. So
We both are former golfers prior to our disc golf days as well. So
sure.
That's why I got into it, is because this is the cheaper, more affordable form of golf.
Yep. Absolutely.
quick question, Micah, do you golf left-handed?
Yeah, I do everything left-handed.
Nothing right?
The only thing that I do with the right side of my body is I used to kick in football and I played soccer. I can kick more accurately with my left foot, but I can kick further with my right foot. And
Okay.
I can dunk a basketball better with my right hand than I can my left.
Is that because you're jumping off of your left?
Yeah, I think my left leg is, I don't know, a little more coordinated when it comes to jumping, maybe, or something. So.
Michael, are you the same?
No, I'm completely ambidextrous. So I
Really?
throw frisbee left-handed, and my golf swing is the same motion. So I'm right-handed golfer.
Right.
Same.
Okay.
Which, like, it doesn't make sense that so many people throw right-handed. Like, so you're turning with, like, you're using your right shoulder and then you turn around and golf the other way. I'm like, what are you guys doing? That's backwards. I have this. I'm moving the same direction for every sport I play.
I think originally my brother tried teaching me how to putt right-handed in disc golf, and probably because I sucked putting left-handed. But
I think we all explored that switch at some point in our
yeah.
disc golf careers.
No, last year when I hurt my shoulder, I tried playing one round at Johnny's right-handed, and I shot like -6 or -8 right-handed,
Nice.
but also the furthest hole is like 230 feet. But I played one round right-handed, and I said, I'm never doing this again. It's just not fun. So,
Yeah.
But
That's good. Okay, well, we have been a little long-winded. To wrap us up before we let you shout out anybody you want to shout out, any plugs, what's a 2-minute drill that you might be working on currently or you think could benefit Mr. Harris and myself?
yeah, I mean, honestly, a majority of my work spent through the tournament year is putting. And the main thing that I like to focus on, and I alluded to it much earlier. I mean, we've been talking for a long time, but focus on 20-foot putts.
I will say, Micah, since we played at Prickly Pines the first time, and you told me that, I spend 75% of my practice putting from that distance. I just want to let you know that you inspired me.
Hey, no, that's good.
It hasn't helped.
That is the number one drill that I tell people to do, and I think it's kind of inherited from something I learned from an old Eagle pod or vlog or something way back when. Is learn how your putters fly from 20 feet, because grow your confidence from 20 feet, because when you move back to 30, you'll know exactly how they fly. And if you see the disc going into the basket, you feel more and more confident in it. And so like tomorrow, for example, I'm going to go out and I'm going to place mini markers 20 feet all the way around the basket. I have a rope attached to a carabiner that's 20 feet, and I'll just place minis exactly at 20 feet, and I'll just learn how to make putts again. I missed way too many from that distance, and that is the distance you should be absolutely 100% in any wind. So last year,
if you're automatic there, you're gonna get up and down. You're gonna make birdies. You're gonna save.
Absolutely, because now you're gonna be running those 40-foot putts and giving them good runs. And if you land at 20 feet, you know you're good, right? Mm-hmm. In your own head, you already made that. So, if I would say to do a drill, is I would do that. Go place minis around a basket at 20 feet, practice in all winds. Hopefully you can get a little bit of elevation, go around and do straddle putts. Straddle putts one time, next time do a staggered putt. And then even last year, like I did, I did a little bit of analytics with it and calculated percentages that I make putts in left to rights, make putts in right to lefts. Which putts do I need to work on the best? Headwind putts, tailwind putts, cross putts, which way? I was incredibly analytical about it, and I think it helped me because I focused a lot on headwind putts and learned what I needed to do to make headwind putts. So at 20 feet, you can learn a lot about your putt, and especially, I mean, the biggest part is just making putts. So,
yeah.
You heard it here first. Make putts.
Yeah. Make putts and win
score
bucks.
better. Yeah.
So, yeah.
We'll think of a rhyme for that one.
Yeah.
Make putts and cover your butts. I don't know. Quickly before we let Micah place the shout outs, I just got to shout out my wife. It's her birthday tomorrow. So thank you, Sid, for letting me record this tonight. Big 29.
Wow.
And then Juniper's birthday is on Friday, and she turns 2.
Wow.
Awesome.
2 already.
It's birthday week for us. We got 6 birthdays and Mother's Day this week. So.
Oh, God.
Well, I'll be going to Pagosa for a B tier down there on Friday. So
nice.
I'm actually Joe Revere is going to come down too, and he said he's bringing his whole family down. I forgot it was Mother's Day, so that's a good reminder again.
Yeah, there you go. Reminder for Mother's Day. Shout out my mom. Thanks for listening, Mom.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
I'll also shout out my mom. So
there we go.
Hope she listens to this at some point.
Maybe.
Any other plugs you want to throw out? Anything from Infinite?
Yeah, no.
Referral code, anything like that?
I think just keep an eye out for. I'm pretty active on Instagram. I like posting kind of my disc golf story, things I'm working on, tournaments, everything like that. I'm kind of active on Facebook, but my Instagram is got a long story behind it, but it's yo_Micah. I get recognized weirdly on disc golf courses sometimes as Yo Micah. We'll
tag that in the description.
Yeah. And Infinite's been great to me, and if you have any questions about some Infinite discs, maybe what discs they are, sometimes they're cool combinations of different Innova molds. Reach out to me. Maybe I can hook you up with some discs, or at least give you some referrals. So.
Perfect.
And I appreciate you guys as fellow lefties bringing me on and chatting for probably way too long, but I love talking about disc golf.
This is why we started the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of texting, we do this once a week. So
I like that. Yeah, that's what
it's reduced our number of texts, or the length of our texts.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll talk about this on the pod.
Yeah. No, hopefully you guys will let me back on it. Some point in time, maybe late season or something like that.
Yeah, let's go.
We'll be following you for sure. So awesome. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.